Okay, so I made a few changes from the previous episode. So here we're going to kind of go over, we have the profile here, and we want to be able to get our user to be able to edit this profile. So here you'll see, all right, if you're not logged in, it's going to prompt you to log in and register. So let's do that real quick. So we log in, it should take us back to the home page if it's a successful login. And now we have a button to edit here. And again, if you look at code, it's because I'm doing authorized view here. Code's available on the GitHub, so I recommend getting that and then just following along. So authorized view here. We have the authorized button changes based on if you are logged in or not, and it will take you somewhere different. In this case, you're going to go to your profile settings if you click this edit button, which will then take you to a very bare bones. We're going to build this up in probably the next chapter, but for now we're going to finish up chapter 1 and kind of go over the login and log out and being able to pass authenticated user information around so you can do this kind of stuff. So in the edit profile, go to this razor component, profile. We have just built out this kind of similar to like register in the login page where you have an edit form, but this time for a profile, and that's your profile DTO. So in this case, we want to let the user, we're going to ignore the photo for now, and we're going to just go with display name and the biography for that profile. So what we want to do is we want to say, hey, if I have this user, I want to pull up their display name and biography. And then when they hit the save button on their profile, we're going to handle valid profile, and it is going to save their, we're going to probably do a await profile service dot save profile. And we're going to pass in the profile here. Okay, so we need to create two functions here. We need to create under the profile service, get user profile and save profile by passing in the profile DTO. So what we're going to do is let's take a look at that. So let's stop here and let's take a look at the client side first. So we created this in the last video. Let's do a public async task. We're going to status, and we're going to call this get user profile. And what this is going to do is we want it to load whoever is going to this settings / profile page. We're going to get their profile. So we're not going to pass any information to it. We're going to have the JWT, the token, be able to grab that data from the database. So we don't want anything from the client side being altered to say, hey, yeah, I can get the user profile for this page. You'll see there's some things we can do to secure this. This video is really about securing the API calls and also data protection calls and things like that. So we're hoping that the only user, so the person that is logged in is only making edits to their account, and we're going to make sure of that in our backend. So here we get our get user profile. So let's go back and finish up this. So we're going to get the user profile, and if we don't pass anything into it, we are then going to make a API call to an endpoint to grab that information. So let me grab the get user profile. So we want to return, actually, not a status. We want to return a profile. if it succeeds. Or DTO, sorry, profile DTO. We want to return that. So var results equals, we'll just say it will return nothing in this case. So let's try to get, we are going to get the token. So var token. So this is what we're going to do to get the information we want. So we're going to grab the token that we have, like async. We want to grab this token, and this is the token we stored in local storage. Get item, and it is called auth token. So we're grabbing that out of our storage. And our HTTP client is going to set the default request headers.authorization equal to a new system.net.http.headers.authentication header value. And what that does is it's going to attach a header when you're doing these requests. This will be sent along with whatever HTTP request. This is how you can secure your API calls. Because we're saying to the server, hey, we have these authentication. You should expect these because we've added the program.cs here. You should expect a JWT bearer, and it should have this information that will be decoded, and you will be able to validate that this user should have access to this site, and the information in there can be decoded. So here we're going to call this the bearer, and we are going to pass that token in there. So we're grabbing the token from the client side, and we're going to pass it to the server side through an HTTP request. So now we need to actually do the request here because we've just set the HTTP client to include that in the headers. So we're going to say var response equals await HTTP client.post. So get, sorry, not post. We're not posting information quite yet. Get from, because we're passing it in the header, we don't have to pass any kind of information through a post request. We can just pass it as the header here. So we're going to say get from JSON async. We are going to say that this should be a profile DTO object that we expect back from this API / profile / get user profile. Okay, so we're going to try that, and then we're hopefully going to be able to say the return will now be, we got to catch any exception, and we'll just say for now, we'll just put a placeholder here to hopefully be able to, I'm just going to put that there for now. So you do want to put try catches in your code and be able to print out to the console when you're trying to test certain things or retry functionality and things like that. So try catches are awesome. Return, we're going to return that result now. And we need to assign that result first, sorry. So var response, actually, it's going to be result. We're expecting a profile DTO. Cool. Okay, so that return result. So now we need to complete this loop, right? So we get user profile. It's attaching a header, authentication header value. So now we want to go into the server profile service. And real quick, actually, let's go to the client profile service. Let's grab this and let's throw this into the interface so we can just pull it here. Implement interface. Cool, now we have this. So now, the server now will need to be able to grab information that we just passed it and be able to interpret what we've sent it. So where do we want to decode this information though? To get that uh, authorization, to get that authorization header, we want to go and look in the controller actually. So we're going to go into the controller and we're going to say we have an HTTP GET, and it's going to be called whatever action we're going to define. And this will be let's grab public async task. We're going to return the action result. And this is going to be this is what we're returning. So this is what we're returning back to the client. We're going to return the profile DTO. We're going to call this profile. And what we're going to do is from services, and remember the controllers are sitting on the server side, so we're going to be looking at the profile service, server profile service. And here we want to look at those headers that we just sent over. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, let's look into our auth header. So let's look at var auth header equals request dot headers. Let's look into the authorization, because that, again, if you remember in the client profile service, we're setting the authentication header value with the bearer token here. So authorization toString, and now that we have that, we're gonna kind of tear apart this string that we've supplied. So we're gonna say, let's say string dot is null or empty. We have the auth header, and let's say if that's empty, or let's say the auth header starts with bearer and it's blank there, then we are going to return authorized. And I am taking some of this code from another source. I will provide that in the description as well. But this is what we're going to go with. So we're going to say no token has been provided. So we're going to return that. So an unauthorized is a 401. So we're going to return a 401 saying, hey, you didn't provide a token. And we'll probably hopefully want to log some of that too, to see if people are trying to get around it. Okay, so now we want to say, okay, so our token equals the auth header, and this bearer dot length. So just an explanation here. This code here is just saying, so bearer, so it's looking for bearer up to a certain point, so dot length, and it's going to start at that index point and then go to the end here, and that's just a range indexer. Okay, so now that we've gotten that token set, now we want to look at that token now. What token have they sent us? What kind of information is going to be in there? We're going to say var handler new JWT security token, and we're going to now pass that token to the handler dot JWT token, and we got to pass in that token. So what we want to do now is we want to say, all right, what what is the value of the email that we provided? So if we go look at the program.cs here, we are wanting to pass to the token. We want to be able to have like an email or something in there. And if you remember, I believe if we go check the custom authentication state provider here, we want to get claims identities from the token. We want to set them and we want to create them and we also want to get them as well. So when we get the token, it should have stored things there, but we want to create the token as well. And I can't remember quite, we say create token, I believe it was a save token. Save token. Yes, it was save token. So we're saving the token. Oh yeah. In the user account controller, or user account service here. Sorry. In the user account controller, we're generating a JWT token. And if you can see here, we are creating the claim for an email here. So let's go take a look at, we're setting the username, email, and ID here. So we want to grab the email. Let's search for users by email, because that's hopefully something that is, like the ID, not going to change, and multiple users. So we're saying that the email in the database, that email is going to be unique. You can't have the same email for each account. So what we're going to do from that JWT token now is we want to pull out the email from there. Okay, so for the profile, let's say we want to get the email. And we're going to look in the JWT token .claims .first or default. So we're going to look for a claim inside that has a type set to email. And we're going to grab the value of that. And now we're going to say, all right, we want to return that email, or give that email to the service to then have the database look up that user's profile. So now we're going to return and okay. So we're returning an okay back to the client here. And we're going to say okay, await profile service dot get user profile, and we're going to pass in the email. We want to pass in the email here. But if you remember, in our get user profile, we're not passing any parameters here. We want to have a optional parameter here. So we can continue to use this profile service here and kind of tie them together. So here we're going to set get user profile. Let's say string email equals just a blank string here. So this is an optional parameter. So we're saying that, okay, if you provide something, or if you don't provide something, then it's just going to set it as an empty string here. And that's fine because the client user profile here, this still works because we are still going to be using that same format. We should be able to, yes, actually, well, let's see this string email. We do have to set this here too. We do have to define this, the same thing. We're implementing that function as well. Okay. But we're not setting anything to the email, right? We're not sending anything in here because we don't want the user to be able to put their email in here. We don't care about that because in the controller is really what's going to be grabbing that email and then giving it to the get user profile and the profile service on the server end. So in the server profiles, we're going to let's see if we implement the interface here, and then we can just get rid of this. So we want to get that email, and the controller is going to decode that JWT token. And what we're going to do now is in get user profile, we're going to return a result. So we're going to have var result equals, we want to again return that profile DTO. But what we're going to do is we're going to get the actual profile from unit of work. We're going to get unit of work dot profile, and I didn't include it up here. So if we look up here, let's get unit of work going. Okay, so we want to look in profile dot get, and we're going to say, hey, I want to grab wherever that application user dot email equals email. And we need to include properties because we're accessing within, we're kind of joining two tables, right? We're joining the profile and the application user table on application user ID. So we need to include that we are looking at the application users. So include property application user, and then we want to take the this is an await. We're just gonna grab it. Okay. Okay, so now that we've gotten that, we're going to try to get that. We're going to return a result. And we're going to say this is going to be your a new profile DTL. We're going to say username is equal to profile dot application user dot username. We want to return everything back out of this. So the display name is profile dot display name. So you see this one is through the application user, and we're accessing that application user, and we're going to be able to get the username out of there. In this case, everything else is just through the profile that we set. And if you need to remember what we did, it's in the flp.data here. Last episode we went over that. And then display name, biography, we're going to set that to also the profile.biography that we just got. And then I believe we have profile image URL. So we're not going to necessarily worry about this for now, but we're going to include it here so we don't have to come back here in the future. At least for that. Okay. Now when you try catch, you always have to catch. And we're just going to leave this here just to show that we're working on that. We're going to return that result. Okay, so we're returning that profile DTO here. So now what we're going to do is let's step through what we just did and see how we're going to get the user profile and kind of load that right now. So if anything, let's just comment this line out and worry about saving in a second, because this is the most important bit, is to see how we're decoding that token. And I think this will kind of cover up how the loop of, I want you guys to be able to create whatever you guys want to do, and the key pieces are like data validation and things like that, and knowing how the circuit of, okay, you have the client talking to an API at backend, and the API backend is using a controller that can decode a token to then send information to the server side service that will be able to access the database securely, and you have that loop covered so that you're building secure and well-built websites. Okay, so let's play this and let's try and get a breakpoint to hit here, actually. So we're going to try and do this. We're also going to hit the profile controller here. We want to see this. And we want to see it actually provide that into here. So we'll hit the try right there. Okay. Okay. So let's try and do a login. Oh, and I believe I went a bit too fast. We're going to have to put a loading screen, but this is an issue with server side pre-rendering and client side rendering. This is Blazor specific error. We'll go over this in a future episode, probably on Blazor specifics. But for now, let's just try and reload this page and hopefully pick up our, yes, it just picked up our token that already exists. Okay, so we're going to edit. And you see it's going to go here. It's going to pass, we're going to try and grab our profile. We're getting the auth header. Okay, got it. We have the token. And we're going to try and find an email from this JWT token. So if we look at the email, sweet, we got the email. So we're using the token. We're assuming the token's safe and that being passed is going to allow us to grab this information. So we're returning this back. And hopefully what we're going to get back from code is, okay, cool. We have, this makes sense because we didn't initially set biography or profile. But we should have a display name and a username set. The username was also used for the display name. So if we hit continue on that, we should see it show up here because we have this model set, and we should have a display name and the biography set. So the display name should actually show something. Biography is null, so that's okay being blank. So let's do after it grabs the profile, let's do a state has changed because we've just updated the profile. So you need to watch out for this though. State has changed is just notifying to re-render. This can be dangerous if you get stuck in a render loop where there is just constant re-rendering, then not because you set a timer, or not because of certain actions that take place, but because it's just stuck in an infinite re-render loop. So you want to be very careful. That's why under first render, that's a reason why I feel safe putting this here, is because it's under an if statement saying, okay, this is the first render, then you can do a state change. If this was outside of the first render, it would always continuously try and re-render and keep hitting this same. So this on after render async is things are continuously happening here when you're interacting with the page. So you have to be very careful with doing something like this. But let's do a state change there. And let's take a look in this as well. I might do a video explaining the Blazor specifics just because there's some good information to know. Okay, let's force reload the page. Okay, let's do an edit. We're going to hit my breakpoints. Yes, we are. Okay, we know we're getting through this. Awesome, look, so that re-render works. So we do have a display name. So let's change the display name to let's make it a little bit more formal. And then we're going to do the biography as, but it's not going to work because if we hit save, nothing's going to happen. So what we want to do is we now want to build out the save function here. It's going to be the same thing. We're still going to need to decode, and you're going to see something that we could possibly, we're going to be writing code, the same code that we can maybe put into a function and pass to places we need to. So in the profile, we want to uncover this, and we want to say, all right, we're going to save this profile. Then after we save the profile, let's just be preemptive here and say navigation manager navigate to take us back to the index, take us back home here. And let's actually do force reload. Or force load. Okay. So we're going to save profile. Let's grab, now we want to do the save profile here. So we're passing in a profile DTO. So now let's go to the client side, services, and it helps to kind of clean up this while you're looking around. I like cleaning it up just so I end up going to the same places, or it makes it easier when you clean it up for yourself. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're not going to return anything. We could return a status, but in this case, let's just not do anything. And let's say we have a save profile, and we're going to pass in a profile DTO. So similar to how the create profile looked, we're going to also have this look as well. And we're going to say, okay, var response equals await. Oh, remember, we actually don't want to do that, because now we want to have this token here. We want to get this token, add it to the HTTP client, and then do what we need to do. So we're going to do that, and we are going to then say we don't really care about a result. We just want to try and hit this endpoint. So we're going to await, and in this case, we're going to say this is a, we're going to say this is a post. So we're going to do await HTTP client, post is JSON async, and remember HTTP client, we've attached the token, and we're going to, instead of create profile, we're going to say profile. Okay. So we want to save the profile. While I'm in here, let's just put a breakpoint so I'm making for sure that I'm going through this. So let's grab this. And let's say save. And we're going to be using profile services. Profile DTO should be passed in as well. But we're going to call this save profile. We're still passing that DTO. And we're going to return a whatever result we get, which in this case is, I don't believe we need to return anything. It should be voided out. So now let's go back to the client profile service. Let's take this, add it to the interface. And then let's go to the service. Now on the server side, right click, we can grab that implement interface. Okay, and we are going to do, so we're going to have a profile DTO pass to it. So we're going to try and we're going to do something a little different here. We're going to save a profile, and we're going to actually do a try catch. And let's say somebody's profile is null, or it doesn't exist, or it got deleted for some reason. We're going to put a try catch in here to say, hey, I want you to try and find this entity. So we're going to find the profile. So let's say our var profile equals unit of work dot profile dot get, and we're looking for the application user.email. This is how we're securing it. But we're not passing that email. We need to have this as an optional again, which I forgot. Let's throw that in here as well. So under here, we're going to have, and I believe your optionals have to appear at the end of your parameter listings. So we're going to make sure this is updated. Okay. And now back up in the controller, we want to pass in the email. If you remember, we're going to grab, we want to include this. All right, one problem at a time here. Let me remove that breakpoint so I can see. So we're reusing this code quite a bit, so we might be able to just throw that into something that we don't need to see all the time. So we want to result code is equal to 200. Let's fix this problem because did I override? Okay, I did override it. Wrong one. I apologize. Oop. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. So we want to get that email out, and we want to pass the result here. I don't think we'd really care to see anything out of that. We just want to return an OK with that as well. Return this. And no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to return an OK. Just return an OK. We could do some error handling here to say, all right, if it failed to save, we could, but for now, let's just go with this. This, remember, this is the important bit we want to focus on here is grabbing that auth header back out. Okay, so we're passing that email, and now we get back to the server profile service. Okay, so now we're looking at the email, and we want to include properties here. All right, so we want to grab that an existing profile. Let's say that this profile doesn't exist. Let's say something is wrong with the profile in some kind of way. We're going to have in the catch, let's say it couldn't find that. It's going to throw an exception when it cannot find this. We're going to say, all right, let's just create a new profile. And we're going to call that, let's just call it new profile. And we're going to say that is equal to new profile. And hopefully this will be able to find it. We might have to specify .profile. And then we're going to say, okay, you're going to attach this to the application user we just found. Well, in this case, we can't, so we're going to have to say unit of work dot application user dot get, and we are going to pass that. We're going to say the email has to match, so you're going to get that here. Dot first, and then we want to set the display name equal to whatever we're changing that profile DTO, display name, biography, equal to profile DTO dot biography, and in the future again profile image URL equal to the profile DTO dot profile image URL there. Okay, now we want to set the unit of work dot profile dot insert. So we're going to do insert. So we're still within the catch. So we're going to insert down here this underscore unit of work, and we're going to save. And this is not the new profile. Okay. Now, up here under the try, we're going to say, okay, var profile. We're going to go back to, all right, let's say we're just updating. We're just updating this profile. Entity framework core does something cool where I grab this profile from unitofwork.profile.get. So I can say, I'm going to make changes to this profile. So this profile dot, and remember I'm passing the DTO. So this is the profile entity, and this is the profile DTO. Or this is the profile DTO. So profile dot, and I'm allowing changes to the display name are going to equal that profile DTO dot display name. And then I'm going to say profile dot biography equals profile DTO dot biography. And profile dot URL, profile image URL equals profile DTO dot profile image URL. And for now, now we're going to, let's see. Now all we have to do is we made those changes to profile. We don't have to say unitofwork.profile, unitofwork.profile.update. This is already updating this entity, so we can just say unitofwork.save. Because we're pulling this out, it knows about this entity, and we're going to be able to just save this here, which is awesome. Okay, so now we have the save profile. We need to have a return for this. In the task, not all code paths return a value. We're returning a nothing here to the save profile. We don't need to return anything. Let me take a look at why it's wanting a return value. I apologize because we don't have async here. Okay, there you go. So now what we want to do is we want to test this now. So you might have had a profile that already existed, and this is kind of why I did the try catch here. Is let's say you created a profile or created a user before we added a profile entity. That profile is being added when you create a user. So let's say you're trying to edit a profile for a user that their profile doesn't even exist. So we're going to make sure that this will catch that exception of it not existing and create one brand new for them. Okay, so let's try and run this. And if you remember in the profile, we're going to handle that valid profile save. So let's put a breakpoint here. Let's put a breakpoint here in the client-side service. And in the controller, let's put it down here. And then in the server side. Okay, there's already one there. Okay, great. So let's reload this page. Pick up that token that already exists. Okay, edit. Took a second. We need to add a loading spinner here. So it's taking some time just because it is local. So hopefully when we do get this hosted somewhere, it will be a lot faster. Okay, so we want to change the display name to, let's add some capitalization, some nice stuff, and we'll just do hi in the biography. When we hit save, it's going to await that service. We're going to hit F10, and we're going to be able to step through here. Awesome. Now we're going to try and hit the controller, and we did, and the email is being passed. Great, awesome. Profile already exists. So what we're going to do is we're going to set, so we're getting the profile. It does exist. And you see here, after we save, so this exists in memory right now. Those are supposed to be blank. Forgot about website, but we don't need to worry about that for now. But we have this information set now. What guy and hi. So now we should be able to return an OK. That's awesome. And if we go back to the navigation, okay, the navigation manager is going to tell us, okay, go back to the home page. We're not going to be able to see anything because we're not loading that profile yet. So let's do that. Let's do that. So if you take a look at edit though, that information just loaded. So it is being saved. So if we go home, let's get it to appear in home. And we'll end the video after we get that. So we will go to home and we will go to the profile where we're setting the profile name. And we want to have, let's do public profile DTO called my profile. Or just profile here. We need to include the models. We're calling this here. I'm going to say new profile DTO. So in the on after render here, after it's setting this authentication state, we want to be able to grab the, we need to inject, we need to get our profile service, our iProfile service, and we're going to call that profile service. Yes, here. And we're going to say, okay, our profile is going to equal profile service, much like the edit of the profile.razor here, this page here. We're going to do the same in home. We're going to say, I want you to grab get user profile. And await. We need to await it. We're not passing anything to it. It should be grabbing whatever that token is set to. And set the profile there. And now up here we can say in the profile name, we can do at profile dot username or display name, sorry. And then we're going to do at profile dot username. We haven't done friends yet. We'll do description is actually the at profile dot biography. And we'll do the profile picture. We'll implement that later. That's going to be in chapter 2. So let's look at this now. So hopefully on the main screen, we're going to be able to load that profile. I'm not putting in breakpoints yet until we see anything. So again, we got to reload the page. It gets stuck a little bit, and we have no information, and I believe I know why. That is because it is being set, but it is. And let's just do a complete restart of that. So state of change is helpful for when you're doing some, let's say you're loading some things in with asynchronous loads, and you need to be able to grab some information. Then that will be loaded into some variables. It might take a second, and you need to notify to re-render. So the rendering happens only at specific times of which you say, which is a good thing. So we see that we have that display name is correct. The at is using the correct one, and now we have that high there too. So this functionality to save the profile user is awesome. The big thing I wanted you guys to know though in this is the token, right? This is what we are going to do to secure our website. So that is through the client profile service. We are, or any kind of service you're going to create where you need to do, grabbing information or things like that. You can verify that this user exists and that they are allowed to do something by passing that token in as the authentication header value. And then you can grab that information back out of it in the controller. And you can say, hey, I want to actually grab the claims identity here and the email, and then be able to pass it to my service here. We can also throw onto the controller, we can throw an authorized here, or authorize. So that will be an authorized the API to make sure that everything that's coming in and out has to be authorized to be able to be used. But for now, we are going to probably finish up the chapter here with, you've seen plenty of examples at this point to know what the kind of creation loop and testing loop of a new application looks like. You've been given hopefully enough tools to kind of start your journey and maybe some more questions to ask to be able to build this out. The back end is my specialty. The front end, like you can tell, is a little lacking. Looks more like early 2000s or but yeah, this is where you can be creative and kind of know some of the basics. So this will wrap up chapter 1. And if you have any questions or comments, please visit the site, message me, or leave a comment under the YouTube video. But good luck, and before I forget, let's put this into version control. Melody for profile. Okay. And we're going to push that up to the dev branch. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.